Are you trying to build your personal brand around a field of expertise and want to be invited for speaking events? How do you go from being unknown to invitations? Today I want to share what I did to be able to do this. Grab your cup of tea and let's dive into it. Some people get invitations just because they have had such an incredible career that is really, really well known in their industry or to people in adjacent industries. But if you are less well known in your industry, but you want to be invited to speaking events, then consider if you can champion an idea. This is going to be a catalyst for you to be able to be the go-to person for a particular topic. Before I started to talk about personal branding at events, I had a career in the corporate world for about over a decade, and during that time I would often be invited to speak in the industry in terms of things related to my role. So I worked in marketing and in communications, and I would be invited to, say, universities, for example, who were industry partners on particular projects, and I would present on certain things. But all of that was attached to my role. It was attached to my title, and that was something that was related to the organizations that I was working with. But you can also build your personal brand as a speaker in a way that isn't attached to your organization. So that is where you want to hone in on a particular topic that you can own. So when I was, for example, a marketing and communications manager, this topic is too broad for people to find interesting at an event. You have to be able to champion a particular idea, and particularly one that is timely. So when you think about speaking events, for example, they really want to tap into ideas that they know that their community is really focused on at the moment. What is the priority of their community? What's a topic that could be of interest, so that the event is actually providing value to the participant. So you need to get into that mind frame of what event organizers would be looking for. When my career was solely focused on marketing and communications, I was never once invited to be a speaker in my personal capacity outside of my workplace. But when I honed in on a particular topic that was also timely and relevant to certain communities or multiple communities, then this increased my speaking opportunities. Tip number 2 is to share your topic of interest with key contacts. When I first started working in personal branding, I was focused on coaching, and I had zero interest in any sort of speaking opportunities whatsoever. And this was something that I thought, if it was something to come about, it would be years and years away. But because I had recently shared a career pivot that I was trying to navigate with a key contact, when that same person was in a different scenario and had the opportunity to present a possible speaker, that is where my name came up. And I was super fortunate that I had that opportunity simply because I had had a simple conversation with someone about this direction that I wanted to go in. And so they associated me with a particular topic when the opportunity arose to speak to a relevant audience. And none of that would have happened if I hadn't had that conversation to begin with. And I was never having that conversation with the intention that I wanted that person to put me forward for anything. I was purely having that conversation because I wanted to engage with someone who I respected in related industries and was just chatting about this area of my career that I was trying to navigate, and it turned out to be a really helpful conversation in getting me to this next stage of my progression and my own personal and professional development as well. Number 3, if you want to build your speaking opportunities, is to create content in your field of expertise. I have had invitations from people that I know or people referring me to other people, but I also have invitations questions from complete strangers, and that is predominantly because of the content that I have created. Every week I publish 2 blogs, 2 podcasts, 2 YouTube episodes, and this has put out my field of expertise to a broader audience. So a lot of the people that have contacted me have been a result of having seen the content that I have created. So they've seen something that they were interested in and they wanted me to speak on that particular topic. And sometimes it isn't even the most recent piece of content that I have put out that most resonated with them, but the overall portfolio of work that they have seen, or they might even find something that is way back in something that I have created and they say, yep, that is a topic that I really want to focus in on. So you never know what opportunities are going to come about from something that you have created, whether it was recently or whether it was a while ago. That could be planting the seed for the speaking opportunities that you might have. Number 4 is to SEO your content related to the field of expertise that you want to be known for, related to the idea that you want to be attached to, because that is how those strangers who aren't in your existing network are going to be able to find you. SEO is what makes you discoverable. Your search engine optimization is what makes you discoverable to the right people. So if, for example, an event organizer is looking for someone to speak on a particular topic, you want to be able to show up in those search results so that you can be considered for that opportunity. And that is what has been really valuable to me. But to be able to do that, you need to understand the basics of search engine optimization, SEO, if you don't already. And if you are completely new to that space, I recently created an episode to highlight the strategy that I used, and I simplified this as much as possible because I know that SEO can be made to sound really complicated, and to be honest, sometimes it can be, but I've shared the strategy that I used, and I think it's a pretty simple one to be able to rank really highly on Google for all of the things that I am targeting, and is a big part of the reason that I have had the opportunities that I have had, both in my local area and even in interstate as well. So search engine optimization is something that I would highly recommend if you do want to start to open your speaking opportunities up beyond your existing networks. Number 5 is to share social proof of your speaking. Because of my first speaking opportunity being something that I completely did not plan and just almost fell into, I wasn't completely prepared for all of the things that you probably should be doing when you are a speaker. But fortunately, I had people in the room that were much more switched on than I was, and they took photos of that particular event. And it was not something that I had thought to organize, but I was really grateful to have that afterward, because also it provided that social proof. So while I at that stage was still not planning to pursue being a speaker actively in any way, for me what I thought was interesting was that it provided an opportunity to highlight my credibility on a particular topic, and that I can be trusted by other organizations to speak on this. And this is something that I talk about a lot on this channel in terms of social proof. And if you are trying to build credibility for your personal brand, then things like these speaking opportunities that align with trusted organizations is a way to build your personal brand when you don't yet have that credibility in the industry. So it's trust by association. But outside of just making sure that you have photos of the speaking opportunities that you do, you can also ask for testimonials. So you have written social proof as well. So this is something that I will on occasion do to some of the people that I have worked with for speaking opportunities. I will ask, for example, the event organizer if they are willing to provide a few words about their experience. And I try and give them just a few little guidelines very, very simply as to what they can do to provide this. So, how many words can this be roughly? And I keep this very small. So, say 70 words, 50 words, whatever makes it really easy to do. What was the problem that they were trying to solve, and what did they feel that they got out of it? And that means that when another event organizer reads some of those testimonials, they can see where their own community fits. So maybe they can see that their own community has that particular problem or has that particular interest or priority. They can see what that experience was like, and then they can see that transformational state. What was it that their participants were able to get out of that experience? Number 6 is to embrace exposure therapy and to practice your speaking in lower stake settings. When I first started to engage more in public speaking, this also coincided with me becoming president of my MBA alumni network. And I didn't take this job on because I wanted that exposure in terms of public speaking. At that stage, I had zero interest in public speaking. And like the majority of people, the 75% of people who fear public speaking, this was not something that I wanted to do any more of than I ever had to. But then I thought about this opportunity a little bit more, and I realized that public speaking was going to have to be a big aspect of that role. And I almost took on that opportunity more because I knew that there was this big aspect that would push my comfort zone, and something that I would have to do so regularly that would require me to develop skills in that space. And at that stage, as I mentioned, that was not something that I was trying to do public speaking for as a part of my professional development or anything like that related to my business and my private work. I just wanted to do something that was going to push my comfort zone. But if you are trying to actively pursue public speaking, then think about those opportunities that might exist for you to take on roles that require speaking. For example, you might have similar opportunities in organizations that you are affiliated with or communities that you are a part of. Could you, for example, take on a leadership position that is going to require you to speak more often, and you can build your capabilities in that space? Or even if you are working in an organization, maybe you can build your capabilities in speaking more often to your colleagues, and you can put your hand up for presentations more in that setting. That was something that I had to do a lot as a part of my corporate experience. I had to always present a lot as a part of roles that I had had in management, but not something that I was actively pursuing outside of that setting. But if I was, then I would have actively tried to put my hand up for more of those instead of just reacting and taking those opportunities when they came, treating it like it was just a part of the role. I would have used that as a development opportunity. So that's something that you can do as well. And I know a lot of people also engage in organizations such as Toastmasters, for example, where they can actually build these capabilities really actively, almost as a hobby outside of their workplace. But this idea of exposure therapy is that you slowly start to expose yourself to that thing that you potentially fear, so that over time you can push that comfort zone about how you feel about that thing, and it can eventually start to feel more normal to you. Number 7 is to speak for free first. I now charge for the majority of speaking opportunities that I engage with, but early on in your speaking journey, it can be really useful to actually just take on those ones that come to you that don't necessarily have the budget to be able to pay you for your time, because you can also still get a lot out of that experience. You can spread your message, you can build your network, and you can get those photos or those testimonials that are going to allow you to progress further into the paid opportunities as well. So don't completely disregard the potential that speaking for free has in terms of building your professional brand. In many cases, it can be a really valuable experience as well. So that's how I went from unknown to invitations, and hopefully if you are trying to build your speaking opportunities as well, then that might be a simple strategy that you can use. Thanks so much. Subscribe for more like this, and I'll see you in the next episode.